Hi there, it's Morgan. You know the drill. And yes, my eyebrows are covered. Let's do some makeup. Hello, hi. So I'm gonna do some makeup and I'm gonna talk to you today about something I've actually never talked about before, really, on this channel or in drag, which is kind of my life before drag. What was I doing? Who was I? Where was I going? You might have heard me talk about how I found drag in the first place. I was 13 years old, I saw the Australian film Priscilla Queen of the Desert. I tried drag out for a birthday party, it felt really weird. 20 years later I moved to Berlin and started going to drag shows and became a drag queen. But what was I doing in that 20 years in between? Well, actually, before I started doing drag, I was really interested in traveling. I organized my life so that I could travel a lot. And I actually worked out the other day. I think I've traveled to about 52 countries. Basically, I've been to every continent except Africa and Antarctica, which is a great privilege. I'm very lucky to have been able to do that. So I grew up in London in the UK and I went to university there and I studied linguistics, which I found fun because I'm that kind of nerd, but it's almost entirely useless unless you want to get into academia or write dictionaries. When I finished my studies, I had really no idea what I wanted to do as a career, but I did know that I wanted to travel. So I just took a job in London in a bookshop to try and save some money, which actually happened to be a travel book and map shop, which kind of worked for me because I'm also nerdy about geography. Like, people would come into the shop and ask for a book on, I don't know, Asmara, and I would need to know where that is in order to direct them to the right part of the shop. So I did that for a year, and I mean, whatever, it was okay. London is kind of a hateful place to live and work, in my opinion, so. But I was fortunate and I was actually able to save some money. So in 2009, I took a one-way flight to Singapore and I basically spent 3 months traveling back to London through Southeast Asia, China, and Russia and Europe. And it was while I was in China, actually, that I met a bunch of people who were teaching English there as a foreign language, and I thought, oh, I could do that. And that would be a great way to travel around the world and live and work in different places, which is really, at the time, what I wanted to do with my life. So when I came back to London, I took a course to get qualified to teach English as a foreign language. And then in 2010, I got my first job teaching in Austria, actually. Not Australia, Austria. You know, it's a small country between Germany and Italy. And that was fun. I got to know Austria pretty well. It's kind of an odd country, but very beautiful. And I also worked a little bit in Switzerland, Hungary, Germany. And of course, in the school holidays, I got to travel in other parts of Central Europe. So I spent a lot of time in like Czech Republic and Poland, as well as doing some longer trips, and actually had some of my most memorable travel experiences. Like at the end of 2010, I traveled in Syria. This was like several months before the civil war there, which later made it a very surreal experience to see these places and know that these people that I'd met were just gone. To say that it's upsetting for me is rather flippant. I mean, it must have been fucking devastating to the people living there. Honestly, I can't really imagine it, which is very privileged. But the experience I had traveling there will stay with me for the rest of my life. It was really wonderful. In so many ways, like the people were super friendly, the food was great, there's so many interesting historical, architectural things to see, and the landscapes are just beautiful. It was, I mean, it's everything. Okay, that's good for a base. Let's powder. Oh, there we go. Now I'll just bake and then we'll start the eyes. So then during my time in Austria, I was also saving up money to take a longer trip with my partner at the time to go to South America, kind of indefinitely. We didn't really have a plan on when the trip might end or where we would live afterwards, although we vaguely had the idea that we might move to Berlin at some point. So then at the beginning of 2013, we left for Argentina and actually ended up spending 11 months in South America. And I did a bit of teaching work, but mostly we were living on savings, and this is when I started trying my hand at being a travel writer. So I actually started a blog, a travel blog, which became a big part of my work and my business actually, and a big source of income eventually. But at the beginning of 2013, I was just starting it kind of for fun and seeing where it would go. And eventually I got enough work being a freelance travel writer that I could kind of take my work with me. wherever I went. And in 2014, when we came back to Europe, I continued teaching, and that was actually the year that I moved to Berlin. Okay, very good. Let's cut the crease. And after I moved to Berlin, I was still pretty focused on traveling. It was just that I now had like a home base, whereas I'd been living intentionally without one for the last few years. And because at this point I had developed my career such that I didn't have to be in a specific place to do my work, I could take it with me wherever I wanted. So several times I took the opportunity to leave Berlin during the coldest months and went once to Portugal and Southern Europe, another time to Southeast Asia, and a third time to Mexico. And as I discovered drag more and more, I became kind of less interested in traveling and writing, to be honest. So actually, at the beginning of this year, 2021, I sold the blog that I was talking about earlier. So to be honest, I'm quite glad to have done a lot of traveling in the past, especially now because travel doesn't seem so reasonable, accessible, comfortable. And I acknowledge I'm super privileged to be able to have done this. And sure, I'll take trips now and then, I guess, but I'm really kind of focused on doing drag and hosting shows and doing this. I guess that's the makeup, so I'm going to put on lashes, a wig, and a look, and I'll be right back. So here we are with the final look. I'm quite happy with this. I think it turned out. I'm actually just about to go out to do a gig, so... And yeah, now that I've found drag, I'm definitely still up for traveling. I mean, hello, international bookings, please. But I would say it's no longer my main focus or the thing that I want to build my life around necessarily. Thanks so much for watching. If you're not already, you can follow me over on Instagram at Morganwood Callisto, MorganWoodCallisto. You can also join me over on Patreon, where there are various tiers that you can join at and support me and help me continue creating this content for you. See you next time. Goodbye.